Mic check, mic check. We are back, Knicks and Bruises. Good morning.
Good morning. Word,
12:55 in the morning.
word.
It's
Ah,
officially media day. You know what I mean? But
that about
we
that.
get we getting the jump on it. Couple quick questions, couple of expectations. We're gonna talk real quick about this off season. But I want to just start with the big news, obviously. Drew Holiday. We talked about him on your show a couple days ago, and he went to our worst nightmare came true. He went to
Yeah,
Boston.
word.
Um, what was your thoughts? How you feeling about it? I know you wanted him here. I was on the fence, yes and no, pros and cons. Um, but I know worst case scenario is him going to Boston.
Yeah. I don't like the fact that he's in Boston. We talked about that. I really don't like the fact that he's in Boston because Boston becomes such a better team. You know what I mean? I almost feel like that puts them back to being the top team in the Eastern Conference for real. You know what I mean? It doesn't knock the Knicks down, right? The Knicks were already in contention between the Knicks, Miami, Chicago, Cleveland, you know, Brooklyn, whoever else, it being, one of the top, and fighting for that third spot. But I believe it makes Boston better. I am one that believed that Drew Holiday was a perfect fit for the Knicks. You know what I mean? And thought that he would. I didn't think he would make the Knicks, as good as Milwaukee or Boston. But I thought that you know, that would legitimately, you would look at and say, yeah, the Knicks are a top 3 or 4 team in the East. And then, you get to the point you're a top 3 or 4 team. Now you're looking at the next move that gets you to the next spot. So that's, I felt like Drew Holiday was the Knicks. The Knicks are very conservative. They seem to look for certain types of guys, right? And I felt like Drew Holiday really fit the bill. And I know that he's 33 years old, 32, 33 years old, but you need those vets too that are contributors and can help you. I felt he was going to help with the basketball IQ, would have helped with the basketball IQ, obviously with the defense, playoff experience, championship playoff experience, all of those things that, he's a guy that you can plug in because of the way that he plays basketball, right? I felt like Josh Hart, you could just plug him in.
Hmm.
I felt like Drew Holiday was that type of guy. You know what I mean? So I'm a little disappointed that the Knicks didn't try to really make a push to get him. I'm definitely disappointed at that. Um, so does it knock the Knicks down? I don't think it knocks the Knicks down because they were already you just made Boston stronger. Boston just made themselves stronger. So I don't think it knocked the Knicks down, but I thought maybe this was an opportunity where the Knicks could step up a level and
Hmm.
then see if they can step up another level, with another move later on. But if their mindset, I don't know what their mindset is. Maybe their mindset is, we want to stick with the 24 and 25-year-olds. Maybe that's what their mindset is. I don't know. You know what I mean?
I got a couple of bright sides to it before we move on. Um, but let me before I get to my bright sides of him going to Boston, let me ask you this: what was your thoughts on the cost? So what will Boston have to give up for him? And potentially what we would have needed to give up considering Boston's offer.
Um, I think
Because I think it was an all-in move for him. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
they gave up Malcolm Brogdon, which you replaced with Drew Holiday, and then you gave up Robert Williams. And what was it?
I
First
think
round,
two. I think two first.
two first, something like that. I didn't really get all of those details. I've been coaching basketball and stuff, um, which I don't even want to talk about. We don't talk about it. But see, for Boston, For Boston, it's really, really good move because you replace Malcolm Brogdon, and I think you can replace Robert Williams. Look, they're going all in. They're trying to win that championship. You know what I mean? You can replace Robert Williams. The future is right now for Boston, without a doubt. So if someone says, "Oh, well, Boston was going to be Robert Williams was going to be our such and such for the future," forget that. You can go find a veteran right now that can do exactly what he does. So I think for them, it's kind of a no brainer because he replaces what Marcus Smart gave you and is probably better. You know what I mean? Which when you asked me the other day when we were talking about him, and you asked me if I were Drew Holiday, where would I want to go? That's why I said Boston would be where I wanted to go. You know what I mean? So he's a perfect fit for them. I think they're going to be able to fill out the bench with, veteran minimums.
We
And,
was we,
and be
we
able to-
was just talking about
yeah,
Dwight Howard.
yep.
You
So I
know,
think, so I think the price that Boston had to pay was great for him. I think it was great. Would the Knicks had to have paid the same price? If
I
I'm
mean, let's say we had to beat that, right?
right,
So, because I mean, Brogdon to me, I feel like they could go ahead and like Lillard could be the gift that keeps on giving. You know what I mean? Like they could potentially flip Brogdon now and pick up more assets. I'm referring to Portland. So I think if you're looking at it from that mindset, like let's say th- somebody we send there may not be there for them, but it may be somebody they could flip,
mhm,
and then a solid, rotational center and the two picks. So let's say we had to beat what they gave. Would you have gotten into that bidding war, or do you think it's fair to say they looked at the package? You know what I mean? I'm assuming, obviously, this is not true, but I'm speculating that they gave the Knicks the chance to beat the offer.
right.
Would you have attempted it, and then what would you have?
Oh man, see, this is the hard part for me because I seen someone say, well, they gave up the equivalents of Mitchell Robinson, obviously Evan Fournier, and like Emmanuel Quickly. I seen that somewhere on Twitter, right? And for me, it's not equivalent because I think Mitchell Robinson means more to the Knicks than Robert Williams means to the Boston Celtics, right? Not to say that Drew Holiday, wouldn't bring what he brings, but so I think for the Knicks, giving up a Mitchell Robinson is bigger than the Celtics giving up um, Robert Williams. And then now you gotta, obviously you gotta replace that. Um, so would I've gotten into the bidding war? I guess to an extent. To an extent, I don't, to an extent, I guess I would have.
Okay. I think I mean it's
Definitely,
subjective because
I definitely
even
would have had a stopping point. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
but that's what I mean. Like even getting into the bidding war, if you're the Knicks and I'm um the Trailblazers, um we have to be equal. We have to be on the same. We got to be seeing eye to eye on the value of each player. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So your value to this particular guy may not be the same value to me,
Right.
and then the guy I value, you know what I mean, you may value even more, or,
Right.
or vice versa. So
Yeah. And that's the thing I think that people don't understand about trades sometimes. Like just because two players have the same stats and do similar things doesn't mean that their value to one team that their value to their teams are the same. You know what I mean? The value to their team because that player fits in whatever schemes or just whatever it is. I think the value of a player to a team is different to one team to another, from one team to another. So to say, well, Robert Williams is just like Mitchell Robinson, or this guy is just like that guy, statistically on the surface it might look like that, but when you talk about the value to that particular team, it changes.
prime example, when we spoke about it last, we both preferred, hypothetically, if we were doing this trade, IQ not be included in this trade because his value as a guy who could we know he could play the backup point
Right,
guard. We know he could run the show in that second unit, as opposed
right,
to including him in the trade. And now we have Holiday, who we are going to assume is starting next to Brunson, and now we in a dilemma of who's running that backup point
right.
guard role, who's
Exactly,
controlling off. So that increased IQ's value. Um, you know what I mean?
exactly.
In that sense, at least for
Right,
us.
right.
But yeah, man, tough blow, man. The Celtics pulling that off. I had a feeling it was gonna happen. I wouldn't be surprised if Brogdon ends up in Miami now, or
Mm,
some other funny, you know what I mean, funny business. Um, but speaking of Miami, that was one of those pluses to me. We didn't get him. Boston got him. It sucks, but if he would have went to Miami, that would have been a move that potentially pushed us down.
that's true.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So the
That's true.
same top two teams are still the same top two teams in the East, and our position is still where it is. So I thought that was a positive spin on it. You know what I mean? It's always good to see Miami not improving. You know what I mean? So um
Yeah. And and it's also I seen someone say in here that's it's a tougher blow for Miami than the Knicks or anyone. I agree. That is a tougher blow for Miami. You know what I mean? Because they were in need of a guy like Drew Holiday.
absolutely, or Dame
Or
Lillard, for that
Dame,
for
or
that matter.
right,
And it's crazy because I heard people saying that, like, from the Dame Lillard trade, like the biggest loser was the Heat, and they weren't even in the trade.
right.
You know what I mean? So
That's yeah, that's the truth. I think it's the truth.
but um another positive is, you know what I mean? Granted, it definitely makes them better. And like you said, they can fill in those pieces. We talked about Dwight Howard, blah blah blah. But it's still a process for them to acclimate, you know what I mean? And,
Yeah,
and get the ball rolling, and get off to a good start, and things of that nature. The same thing we worried about Holiday's age, that is still a factor there, injury history, etc., etc. Not wishing it on him, but yeah, just trying to. I know a lot of Knicks fans are down because of it, and this leads right into my question about addressing the needs coming off of last season. The off season's over, season's about to kick off. Um, do you think that a Knicks addressed all of the needs, any of the needs, some of the needs? You know what I mean? Like,
uh,
I mean, they didn't do much, and we're gonna talk
right.
about that
That's
as well.
that's the thing. They didn't really do much besides sign Dante DiVincenzo. So I think
So it's
Dante,
definitely not all of the needs.
right, Dante's performance is going to answer some of that, right? Did we bring in another guy that can help handle the ball in some situations? You know what I mean? DiVincenzo is going to answer that. Did we bring in a guy that can, be a flamethrower from the 3-point line? DiVincenzo is going to answer that. You know, um, somebody else who has some basketball IQ, DiVincenzo is going to answer that. You know,
Championship experience.
yeah, he's going to
I
answer
mean,
that.
in,
So I
in in
think,
in a sense.
right, exactly. So I think that, um, I think that a lot's going to depend on how well DiVincenzo fits or works out because, sometimes, you can add a player that doesn't look like, oh, well, this guy ain't this guy ain't that. But, just some of the things that they bring lessens your turnovers, picks up your basketball IQ. Something simple that we were talking about when we said, you remember last year when, people were arguing about a certain play where Jalen Brunson was inbounding the ball, right? And people were upset, like, yo, why was Brunson inbounding the ball? But then we found out a couple of days ago, a couple of days later, why? Because nobody else could inbound the damn ball. You know what I'm saying? And little things like that help you in clutch situations. By having someone else can do certain things like that. So we'll see. How many things he's able to bring to the team and how well he fits. I think he'll fit well. Uh, I would say we got incrementally better.
I
That's what
mean, yeah,
incrementally better. I don't
it,
know, you know, incrementally better, but I don't know if we took a leap to say that we're definitely top 3, you know?
I,
We're
I I
still in that
I agree hundred
still in that
percent.
conversation with everybody else. I don't think he adds that much, even if he's a really, really, really good fit and a really, really good glue guy. So right now, the Knicks are the Knicks are relying on the development of Quentin Grimes, the development of IQ,
And that,
the
that's
growth of
exactly where I was going.
RJ, the growth of Randall, the chemistry between RJ and Randall and Brunson getting better. They're
Hmm.
relying on those things to take a step forward.
Yeah, and that's exactly where I was going. Um, as you know, we didn't do much. We didn't.
Right.
We brought in one guy. We got rid of one guy, and we didn't do much other than that. So you mentioned all those areas where DiVincenzo could help us. Potentially.
Mhm.
Not saying he's gonna do all of them, but you named four. Let's say you named 4 things. If he does 2 of them, you know what I mean. That's 2 areas that helps us. But we can't be relying on him to improve us in all of those areas. I think the main thing we did was keep everybody together. You know what I mean? And now it's really about trusting the growth
Right.
of like those guys you named, but in particular, or to me, I mean, yeah, it's everybody.
Yeah.
It's quickly, it's Grimes, it's RJ, it's Randall, it's what I mean, it's Brunson still, it's because he what I mean, he's got to adjust to year 2. Remember, um
Yeah.
Randall, and again, I'm not comparing. All I'm comparing is remember Randall year 1 of playing as an all-star and figuring out how to be the number 1 guy, and then some things changed in year 2. You know what I mean? Like teams adjusted as well. So I
Mhm.
think Brunson's gonna have to figure that out coming in. I'm not doubting that he can. Mitchell Robinson. Um, are there gonna be any areas of improvement, or is it still gonna be he does these things great and that's what we get from him? So yeah, it's all over the board as far as like
Yeah.
where the improvement has to come from, but they didn't address much. You
Right.
know what I mean? They it's really like, I don't want to say trust the process, but they're trusting in the development of.
That's what they're doing. That's what they're doing. They're trusting in the development of players. Um, and listen, for some people, there's a lot of people that's been asking for this to happen for years. Let's trust in the guys that we drafted. RJ's a draft prospect. Um, Emmanuel Quickly's a draft prospect. Quentin Grimes is a draft prospect, right? All of these guys was drafted to the Knicks. Randall's not a draft prospect, but he's been with the Knicks for what's this, his 5th year? It's
Yeah,
gonna be year
yep,
5,
yep,
Randall?
because it's yeah, 5 for Randall,
Yeah.
6 for
Year
Mitch.
5 for Randall. Mitchell Robinson is a draft pick, right? So I mean, the Knicks are literally starting 3 draft picks in their lineup. 3 first-round draft picks in their lineup right now. Emmanuel Quickly's a first-round draft pick that's coming off the bench. You got Deuce, you got Jericho Sims. So this a lot of people have been asking for the Knicks to just rock with their draft picks, let their draft picks grow. Well, this is where we are right now, and this is what they're doing. So, I guess we'll see where it goes from there.
And to add on to that, despite us not pulling off a blockbuster trade or anything of that sense, you you got to be happy with where we are, just looking at it from where we started with these guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let's go back 6 years ago with the draft thing of Mitchell Robinson, right? He's the longest tenured Nick at this point, and so that could be our starting point to where we are today. It's been steady growth, steady improvement, and not really a sign of us taking a step back. You know what I mean? Like it looks like we're still in an upward trajectory. So I mean, from that aspect, you got to be happy as a Knicks fan, or you know what I
Right.
mean. Not saying the job's done; it's finished product, but I mean, acknowledge where we started and where we are.
Yeah. Um, and I also think, I mean, we talked about Randall and Brunson, but if the Knicks, this is probably the year that the Knicks are really looking to see, can Randall take a step to be mentioned in the likelihood of Jason Tatum, Jalen Brown? Can he step up to that level? And then, well, I guess Jalen Brunson too. Is Jalen Brunson at that level? I
I
I
was
don't
just
know if
about
we're
to say
gonna
it.
see that.
It may not have to be both of them, but one of them is gonna have to be spoken in that light.
Yeah.
At least one of them is gonna have to be spoken in that light. I think the onus, honestly, is on Randall because I mean, granted, he's been in there with MVP votes, right? Top five or something like that a couple years ago. Excuse me, two-time All-Star. So I think for Brunson, just getting into the All-Star is an elevation, right? As far as like where he's never been there. Randall is more expectation in a sense because he's been the All-Star two times in 3 years. So him not making it now looks like a regression. You know what I mean? So I think the onus is on Randall. I don't know if a lot of people are gonna want to hear that or agree with me at all. But what do you think of that? Um, do you think the onus is kind of on Randall more than Brunson at this point?
Is the onus on Randall to step up to that? Is it on Randall? Is the onus on Randall over Brunson, basically?
I mean, I say that in the sense that
More than Brunson, you're saying?
Brunson, yeah, Brunson, yeah, because Brunson really just has to make the All Star team, right? And at that point, you know what I mean, just for a novice or somebody looking from the outside in, all right, he took a step up. For like Randall to step up, now you're talking All Star again. You're talking All NBA again. You're
Mhm.
talking, you know what I mean? Got to be up there, like you said, with a Jason Tatum in those conversations. You know what I mean? With Jason Tatum. So, what do you think?
Who's got the biggest onus? It's tough because I think people expect that Jalen Brunson, like you have, people over there looking at Jalen Brunson as this guy's all NBA, no doubt about it. I think you have people already looking at Jalen Brunson in that light. You know what I'm saying? Because of, the clutch factor. We've seen what he did in the playoffs, even when teams were, trying to stop him and they couldn't stop him. So I think teams are like, yeah, this guy's definitely. Oh, I mean, you heard Spo, right? Say, I don't know how that guy's not all NBA. So I think who's it on? That's a tough one. That's a tough one. Um, that's a tough one.
And I know people's eyes are more open for Jalen Brunson at this point, but the East just got tougher, right? I mean, with as far as like All Star openings
Oh yeah,
positions,
for All
you
Star
know what I
open.
mean? Like it's gonna be a little bit tougher for him
Now
here
you got
now
Dame,
with
you got
with
Drew
Dame over
over
here.
there.
You know what I mean? With Drew leaving and coming right back to the East. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Um,
you know.
especially with
I
those
guess I
teams
guess the thing
winning.
is this though. I guess the thing is this. I don't care as much about the All Star and All NBA label, besides the All Star and All NBA play. Right? If Brunson is giving me 26 a game and 38%, 40% from three, 7 assists per game, playing decent defense, shooting a good percentage from the field, and the Knicks are winning and he doesn't make the All-Star team or All NBA, You know what I'm saying? I'm like, okay, but he's giving us that type of production. And when the Knicks are playing against those teams, he's carrying us home to victory and blah, 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 blah. And then, with Randall, like people are saying, it's mostly going to come down to, his playoff performance. You know what I mean? I'm not going to discount, because a lot of people are saying, I don't care what he does during the regular season. I disagree with that because I think the Knicks need Randall to have a good regular season to make the playoffs, right? If Randall comes out and gives you 10 points and 10 boards a game, you know what I mean? People are gonna be like, hold up, wait a minute, this is not what we signed up for. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? So
and I guarantee it, ain't nobody gonna be like, "Oh, I don't care."
as long as he
Let,
performs
let-
in the playoffs,
yeah, let's wait to the playoffs. I
in
don't
the
care.
playoffs,
Nah,
right?
you gonna kill him in the moment.
Exactly. You know what I mean? So the Knicks need Julius Randle to have a good regular season, right? 22 to 25 points a game, 21 to 25 points a game, 10 rebounds, 4 or 5 assists per game, shooting efficiently from the field, holding down his temper, making good decisions out there, and then in the playoffs, performing at that level or better. You know what I mean? And then, so he definitely, yeah, that's what I'm hoping from Julius Randle. You know what I'm saying? But the Knicks need him in the regular season in order to make the playoffs. There's no doubt about that. Uh, but I would say if there has to be an onus on someone, it probably is Julius Randle because he's been there. To take that next leap forward, it probably is because he's been there. He's been All NBA, he's been All Star. Now can you take that next leap? Get mentioned up there with all right. So you mentioned with top 15 to 20 players in the NBA. As far as all NBA is concerned, right? That voting means you're mentioned with the top 15 to 20. Now, in other polls, ESPN, top 50, this and that, whatever, they're going to put them down to whatever. Who cares? But, as far as the NBA is concerned, they haven't ranked as an all NBA guy for last year. Can you step up into that next echelon of player? It's tough because that next echelon. So last year he was third team, right? De'Aaron Fox, LeBron, Damian Lillard, Randall, Demonte Sabonis. The next tier up is Jalen Brown, Jimmy Butler, Steph Curry, Nikola Jokic, Donovan Mitchell. Can you step up into that second team? First team is Giannis, Luka, Joel Embiid, SGA, and Jason Tatum. That's a tough tier to get into right there.
I agree.
That's a tough tier. That's a super tough tier to get into. But if you got two guys that are playing at the level of that second team, you're doing pretty good.
I'm gonna bounce around real quick. I'm gonna shout out Sherwin. Shout out to Sherwin. He says, "Good night, all. Other teams are fixing their weaknesses. We adding shooting guards. We need a small forward, a backup power forward, and a backup point guard." Um, you could comment on what he said, but my question to you is grading the off season, right?
Mhm.
All honesty, you know what I mean? Is it a failure? Is it satisfactory, or is it like you know what I mean? Achieved you know what I mean, a successful off season?
Uh, I
Because
mean,
a lot of people think it was a failure of an off season. Um, you know, some people are on just wait and see. You know what I mean?
that's
Satisfactory.
that's
And
that's the part, because if the Knicks do well and Dante DiVincenzo, shows up and does some things, people are gonna be like, oh, then people are gonna say they did such a great job being patient and just adding small piece by small piece.
it's gonna have a familiar ring to it.
Yeah. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And then if he doesn't, people gonna be like, dang, they should have just went all in to get Zach LaVine or whoever. Right. So, just looking right now, I would just say satisfactory. I don't know what a successful all season would be considered because like you can add, you could have traded for Damian Lillard and it all went to crap, Is it a successful offseason if that happens? You know what I mean?
Well, we're pre-grading. You know what I mean? Like obviously,
You know,
we never know. You know what I mean? Because yeah, that could happen in Boston. That
yeah.
could happen
You know, I
in
guess
Milwaukee.
for a fan, you know, you definitely wouldn't say it's successful for a fan, right? So I would say it's satisfactory. I'm not going to say it's a failure, uh, because I don't think that they, like I said, if they made incremental progress, how can it be a failure, right? They just so that's why I'll say satisfactory. Now, for the front office, you know, what were their goals going into the offseason, right? So you don't know what the front office is thinking. If all they were thinking about is we want Dante, we're not worried about nothing else, then to them it would be a success. Now, if their goal, like for example, last offseason, they might feel like it was a they might have felt like it was a failure at the end because they didn't get Donovan Mitchell, right? They might have felt like it was a failure, you know, and then the season, and then during the regular season, it turned out to be a successful one. But they
They
might have felt that way.
there's definitely was some extra sweat going down the foreheads
Hell
coming
yeah,
coming into the season
yeah.
last year, and you know I think this year some fans have that same type of, you know what I mean, they trying to put that same type of pressure and make them sweat based off of, and it's funny, it's not even really based off the Lillard, you know what I mean, because I didn't hear many people saying go get Lillard, which surprised me, you know what I mean, like it wasn't many people who were saying go get Lillard, but not getting Holiday, you know, I seen a lot of Knicks fans
I,
like, yo,
I mean,
you know what I
I
mean?
think because with Lillard, you know, I think people. I mean, I get it, I get it. Right with Holiday, the price was decent. Um, The price was decent, plus his contract ended at the same time Donovan Mitchell's ends, right? We talked about that. So there were a lot of good things that was there where if, you know, there were a lot of good things. So I think that's why some people were upset about it because I think there was a lot of good things that were there, you know, when it came to Drew Holiday.
No doubt. Oh boy, it's about to get controversial. Josh in the building. What's good, brother, man? The season is upon us. I know you're excited. Um, but I know you want to jump in, so I'm assuming you had some kind of a take or perspective. Um, I guess I could start with the last question though. Off season success, satisfactory, failure. Um, what's your grade and why?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. Salute to you, first of all. Salute to the chat out there. Salute to Knicks and Bruises. Salute to Nothing But Knicks and BK. Wow. Where do I start? So I think ultimately the offseason will be judged by how we perform during the season, right? Ultimately, that's what's going to happen. But for me, I don't think this team has improved a bit since last season. If you're talking about the roster, just based on the roster alone, the changes or lack thereof that were made during this offseason, this is basically the same team that we're bringing out on the floor. And the assumption from a lot of Knicks fans is that we're going to get back to a second round. And that's the level where we're going to be at. But I don't think that's necessarily. It's very difficult to say that, right? And I think Knicks fans are often, the 2 seasons ago we got to the first round. The following season we thought that we for sure get back to the first round at the very least. Adding Kemba Walker, adding Evan Fournier, and it didn't necessarily happen that way, right? So I just want to start there. I don't think this roster has improved a bit. And going back to your first question, have we addressed our needs? No, I don't think this team has addressed their needs at all. Dante DiVincenzo, right? I like him as a player. I like the Villanova connection. I think, the Josh Hart and Jalen Brunsons of the world had a lot to do with bringing him in. But he doesn't address our needs. He is primarily an off-the-ball player. That's what he's been like for his whole entire career. He's not an on-ball player that can help us with ball handling, which to me I think was our biggest need, and we didn't address that at all. Now you want to talk about shooting? Yeah, Dante DiVincenzo is a good shooter, but are we willing to put him in the starting lineup? Is that something we're willing to do? Because we need that in the starting lineup. That will be a need that we can address. but I don't think that the Knicks are necessarily going to do that starting off. So no, I don't think this team has improved, or roster has improved from last season to this season.
Yeah. I think there'd be a lot of people that disagree with you as far as him being a guy that can help handle the ball, because I think he did some of that in Golden State. Help handle the ball, and so I think he can help. I think he helps with basketball IQ. Obviously, he helps with shooting. I think he has a quicker trigger than Quentin Grimes, so I don't think Quentin Grimes' starting spot is straight up safe or secure. I think he might be penciled in that starting spot, but Dante DiVincenzo, if he proves, that he can shoot the ball quicker, which I think he can put the ball on the floor. He can create better than Quentin Grimes, at least right now. We'll see what Quentin Grimes has done over the offseason. I think Dante DiVincenzo adds something that Derrick Rose was supposed to add to this team and did not add last season. So that's why I think the Knicks get incrementally better, because I think
I 100% disagree.
I think he does what Derrick Rose was supposed to do last season. I think he adds that. They had to take Derrick Rose out of the lineup because of his defense. Dante DiVincenzo, I don't think is going to have those defensive issues. I think he's going to add some of those things that Derrick Rose was supposed to add last season. And so I think the Knicks get incrementally better.
And I 100% disagree with that. But go ahead, Tony. I'm sorry.
I think it's to be determined if DiVincenzo can be a lead ball handler, like even in the second unit. I think that's one of the things I'm looking to see. But I can definitely say he's a better ball handler than Grimes at this point, and a better ball handler than Hart at this point. So just knowing that he's an improvement off of those two guys, that would be an improvement on the team. You know what I mean? But as far as like taking over ball handling duties, that I would agree that that's yet to be determined. But I think he did a little bit of it in Milwaukee as well.
On that championship team, he even helped handle the ball some.
Yep.
Well, I mean, I was talking about like as a primary ball handler, right? We talk about some and all this. Like the Knicks are a primarily half-court team, right? Their offense is predicated on guys who can break people down off the dribble, right? Like Jalen Brunson, like Randall, winning his one-on-one matchups. That's how the Knicks run their offense. Dante DiVincenzo, from his time in the NBA, Golden State, Milwaukee, they ran him around screens. He was primarily an off-the-ball player, and he was able to knock down the three at an efficient clip. So to me, he is what we want Quentin Grimes to be, right? As far as that role is concerned. And, we talk about the defense. I believe Dante DiVincenzo can defend. I'm not taking that away from him, but we got a guy in Quentin Grimes who can do that already, right? So all this help with the ball handling duties, I mean, he's going to have to. But throughout his time in the NBA, Dante DiVincenzo has never been a primary ball handler. The reason why I mentioned ball handler and that being the biggest need for the Knicks is because okay. The reason why I mentioned that is because look in the playoffs. Once we lost Emmanuel quickly, that Miami series was over. That series was done because they just defended. Jalen Brunson had to play 48 minutes a game, and we had nobody to come off that bench to handle the basketball. And Jalen Brunson had to play.
Do you agree though that he's a better ball handler than Quentin Grimes and Josh Hart at this point?
I would. That's
no. I mean,
that's up. It's up for debate. But to me, that's not.
For you? Wait.
Well, no, yeah, but I'm basing it off.
If he's better than them at handling the ball, then just that alone is an improvement. That's my only take. You're looking at it as primary. We didn't pick up a primary ball handler, but even that to me is to be determined, because like you said, he's probably gonna have to take care of some of those duties at some point in spurts. You know what I mean? And then obviously,
well, I'm just going based on the history from when I've been watching Dante DiVincenzo. Like his time around the league, he has not been a primary ball handler. He's a guy to come in, play off the ball, catch and shoot threes, that type of thing. That's been his role around the NBA. So when you say yet to be seen, I mean, that goes without saying. I mean, we have to wait and see. But based on what I've seen from Dante DiVincenzo, he's not a primary ball handler. The teams have never used him that way. Not in that regard, not to come in and run the offense, right? He's not breaking people down off the dribble. He's not a pull-up shooter. He is a catch and shoot guy. That's his role,
No.
and the Knicks already have that. To me,
not just he can go off the dribble. He can break down a defense. He may not be asked to do it on every single possession, but he can do it, and he has done it. And if you already have your primary guy, because you just said when Emmanuel quickly went out in the playoffs, the Knicks suffered with ball handling. So are you assuming that he's going to go out in the playoffs, or you want two primary ball handlers in the second unit?
I want two primary ball handlers in the second unit. We need more ball handling on this team. That's what we need more of that.
But that's why I think he is an improvement, because like I said, those things that we wish Grimes, like you said, he's a better version of Grimes because he's able to put the ball on the floor a little more frequently. You know what I mean? With a little bit more fluidity. Like so he is an improvement. That's what I'm saying. Even the same.
Well,
thing
I don't necessarily agree with that. I don't
Josh
necessarily agree that Dante DiVincenzo is better than Quentin Grimes at handling the basketball. I don't necessarily agree with that. Quentin Grimes played point guard in college.
I mean,
you know what I'm saying? And his role in
I don't want to speak on what Quentin Grimes has done over the summer, so I don't know how much better he's gotten over the summer. But if you took last year's Quentin Grimes and last year's Dante DiVincenzo is miles ahead of Quentin Grimes in handling the basketball.
I don't necessarily agree with that.
I mean, I've literally watched Quentin Grimes do something that high school players do. Stop right in the freaking dead spot, the coffin corner, and get trapped because he was afraid. Right? And that's signs of someone who's not confident in their ball handling. He's great at someone closing out and him going off, someone closing out and him attacking.
Which DiVincenzo is also good at.
Right? Quentin Grimes is really good at that. But as far as handling the ball against pressure, I haven't seen Quentin Grimes really be successful in doing that. I have seen Dante DiVincenzo be successful in doing just that.
Well, if the argument is comparing Dante DiVincenzo to Quentin Grimes, again, we don't know. Like, you know what I'm saying? We don't know. And if that's y'all argument about the Knicks getting incrementally better because Dante DiVincenzo is a better ball handler than Quentin Grimes, okay, fine,
you're
take it.
Talking about ball handling. So that's
no. Listen, but Sam, your argument is basing it off of what Quentin Grimes is not. Hold on, Sam. What I'm saying is you guys' argument is basing it off of what Quentin Grimes is not doing. My argument has nothing to do with Quentin Grimes. Right? It has nothing. I'm talking about Dante DiVincenzo and his role in the league since he's been in the league. Dante DiVincenzo has never been a primary ball handler.
Well, we agree with that. We all agree with that.
Another primary ball handler in that second unit. You got IQ. You got a guy that can help to handle the basketball as well. So it can relieve the pressure. And if you absolutely need to go to him, I think he can be your primary ball handler for stints in that second unit. I think he is a strong enough ball handler to be able to handle the ball. Do you want him doing it primarily? No, because I think it takes away from what he does do. But up until now, you've had to use Jalen Brunson with IQ, right? Or just have IQ by himself, just IQ and Josh Hart and RJ Barrett. Or maybe put Quentin Grimes in there a little bit, but then it was still all on IQ. I think with Dante DiVincenzo, you have a guy that you can rely on as well. The same way they were supposed to rely on Derrick Rose with IQ. I think you have a guy that you can rely on with IQ in that backcourt in the second unit that can give you some scoring, help give you some ball handling. The Knicks didn't have that in the second unit last year besides IQ. It continues
specifically
Jalen Brunson to help IQ. That's why you've seen them staggered with that second unit on multiple occasions.
Specifically, you're talking about the second unit. I think the Knicks need ball handling in the first unit. That to me, that's the pin. If I had to pinpoint the number one need for this team, they need ball handling from the guard and wing spot in the starting unit. To me, that's a need. And if your argument is we already have that in IQ, to me, getting Dante DiVincenzo, right, to me does not solve the team's number one need, in my opinion. They don't have that. Our starting unit, when it comes to ball handling, is stagnant at times. Our offense sometimes is stagnant. Right? Come playoff time, we've seen, and even down the stretch of the season, Tibbs took RJ out to put IQ in to add ball handling to that first unit so that teams wouldn't double team or focus too much on Jalen Brunson.
You said Tibbs did what?
Tibbs, down the stretch of the season, I mentioned that on numerous occasions when we had the post-game shows, down the stretch of the season, and even the playoffs in that Cleveland series, for as much as people want to say IQ had a horrible series, to me, he relieved a lot of that ball handling pressure off of Jalen Brunson because they had to take RJ Barrett out the game down the stretch because the Knicks didn't have that in the starting unit. So specifically for me, the biggest need for the Knicks is in the starting unit to add more ball handling. We don't get that from the two. RJ Barrett is improving, but RJ Barrett is not the level where you're giving him the basketball to handle, right, to take that pressure off Jalen Brunson. Well, we only get that from Randall, and he's a forward, right, a front court player.
I think that's the only, because I think what you're saying is right, but because your biggest need was ball handling, that's why your views are what your views are. I agree with you that we did need more ball handling. My biggest, I think our biggest need was actually shooting more than ball handling per se. But I also think DiVincenzo helps in both areas. He's not a primary, you know what I mean? Like he's not going to come in and just be a shooter. He's not going to come in and just be a ball handler. I think where he helps is he kind of does everything. He's like a little bit of Josh Hart. He gives you a little bit what Josh Hart gives you, a little bit what IQ gives you, a little bit of what Grimes gives you, but it's all kind of packaged in one. He's not, he may not be the best at any of those areas, you know what I mean? But he's consistent and solid in all of those areas.
And you know,
so I think it's a big pickup. But I also think it was a, you know what I mean, who any fan that doesn't think it was a lackluster offseason and we didn't, you know what I mean, we didn't do much. I you know what I mean, I agree with them.
Yeah, because I mean I agree with I think it's Sherwin or somebody else in there. I really would have liked to see the Knicks get a 6-8-3.
Yep.
During the offseason. You know what I'm saying?
Combo forward.
You know, yeah.
Yep.
You know, a 6-8-3 that can be out there. You know, I think our second unit is small. You know, we don't have much length in that second unit when you're talking about IQ, Dante DiVincenzo, and Josh Hart. I know, Josh Hart, they say, well, he could play power forward, he could do that. But, I still don't think it erases the length factor. And I think that's important in the league. You know what I mean? I would have liked to see the Knicks, find a way to get a 3 this offseason.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that completely. That's another need that this team has that they have not addressed. So again, we're bringing back essentially the same roster that we had from last season, which I think, based on the success that we've had last season, a lot of Knicks fans are going into it saying, well, this is where we're going to be. But I don't think that's necessarily the case. You look at the Eastern Conference, other teams are getting better too. But I think that the best argument for the Knicks going into this season is the continuity factor. One more year under this coach, you bring him back the same roster. That's what we're hanging our hat on to say, this team is going to be at this certain level. But I just don't necessarily think it's going to be that way because other teams around the Eastern Conference are doing the same thing, right? So what about those improvements? I think when you talk about first-round matchups in the playoffs, which I think matchups are very important, right? What about the other teams that are getting better, that are building that continuity around their coach, right? So I just think it was a very lackluster offseason. I was 100%.
Yeah, I think.
I'm just asking, what other teams are those besides Milwaukee and Boston? They were already top 2 in the Eastern Conference. So what other teams?
Well, no, I'm saying other teams that didn't necessarily have those type of off seasons where they made splashes in the East. Those teams are also playing the continuity argument, right? They're bringing back the same roster. They're having the same.
Teams got better. You said teams got better. I'm asking what teams got better.
No, they got better as far as the continuity argument, Sim, is what I'm saying. Not necessarily the roster move. So we know about Boston and Milwaukee. We know about that. But I'm saying as a Knicks fan, Knicks fans are coming in to this upcoming season with the argument why we're going to be better as continuity, right? Because one more year under this coach, one more year for these guys to play together. It's the same across the Eastern Conference with the exception of, Milwaukee and Boston, right? Not many teams have made that many moves, right? Cleveland hasn't made that many moves, right? So they're coming into another year under the same coach better, right? If we're going to use the same argument for the Knicks. So that's where I was coming from with that. And this is why I think a guy like Jrue Holiday, and we agree on this, I thought the Knicks should have been in on him, right? The pushback from a lot of Knicks fans is, well, we're giving up the farm. Not true. The Knicks have a ton of assets that even if they made the trade for Jrue Holiday, they still had a lot more assets to go out and be aggressive in the trade market.
Yeah,
and so to me, I just think it was a missed opportunity.
We all agree there. I probably the least, like I was 50-50. I definitely saw the positives in it. But I also seen concerns in it, or I thought there was a chance that we do that move, and we still at the same level. You know what I mean? Even with a better player, it how can I describe it? I thought it'd help us maybe a little bit more immediately. I didn't know how much it would help us overall long term. But I mean, it is what it is. I think why fans are talking about continuity and you know what I mean, us bringing this team back together, you know what I mean, same team, is because we have no choice. You know what I mean? Like that.
Yeah, I was
like
gonna say that.
I mean, that's basically all we have to really lay our hat on and rely on. But I don't think you should downplay it, because that I think that is important. You know what I mean? I think that factors in. That factors in even more, in my opinion, in the playoffs. You know what I mean? Like and getting into the playoffs and playing these series, you know what I mean, beating the Cleveland, losing to Miami, all that was more learning, more bonding, more, you know what I mean? So that same core comes back. You know what I mean? Maybe they know how to beat a Miami next year because they went through it. You know what I mean?
Maybe.
So I think
Utah for many years had the same squad. They brought back Donovan Mitchell and those guys, and they couldn't get out the first round, right? And I'm not saying that's the reality for the Knicks. To me, I'm just saying based on what we've seen with this roster and what we assume that the Knicks are doing, right? Because obviously they're not talking to us. We haven't drafted in the last couple of years. Yes, we got a whole bunch of young players that we drafted 2-3 years ago. But what I don't understand what the Knicks are selling us as a fan base right now. Right? Are we waiting? Are we waiting for these guys to necessarily grow into certain roles? Or are we, going to swing for the fences? Why build up all of these assets and then we're not going to draft them? So to me, that's a big concern. And I'm not trying to be pessimistic here, because I'm very optimistic about the front office and the growth of this team. But at the same time, I mean, I'm just so confused about what the Knicks are doing here. I am. And
the Knicks are doing, we just talked about this earlier. I think they're doing just what a lot of fans have been asking for them to do for years. Let the kids that they drafted grow and see where it takes you. And then, you get to a point where, okay, we may need to move this guy to take a step to the next level. I think that's exactly what they're doing. Right? Mitchell Robinson, draft pick. RJ Barrett, draft pick. Emmanuel Quickly, draft pick. Quentin Grimes, draft pick. Deuce, Jericho Sims. I think they're saying, let's just not, and I'm not even saying this about Jrue Holiday. I'm just saying this overall. Let's just not go out and just move these guys to move them. Let's let them grow. If we can bring in the right guy and we got to move one, yeah. But I think that's what they're doing. Let's let it grow. I think that's exactly what they're doing.
Sim, you don't think the Knicks feel a certain type of way about some of the young players right now? You don't think that they actually know what they have in some of these guys? Because if that's your point, I bet. Excuse me, I beg to differ. I think the Knicks do. I mean, a front office. I think they do know what they have in some of these guys, that they're not going to reach certain levels and things of that nature. I think they know that.
I think Quentin Grimes, they're still figuring out what the guy can be. I mean, you're basically talking about last year was his second season, but he played 20-something games in his first season. So I think Quentin Grimes, they still want to see where he can go with his development.
Every single one of them. Yeah, none of them is a finished product. My bad.
Yeah, Emmanuel Quickly stepped up into the sixth man of the year conversations. So why wouldn't you want to see if he can go a little bit farther? Where can he go from there? Right? Mitchell Robinson is a guy that's been leading the league, or a top offensive rebounder, a top shot blocker. Okay, can he move up to being defensive player, in defensive player of the year conversations along with that? You know what I mean? So, RJ Barrett obviously is a guy who's been averaging close to 20 points per game throughout his career. here in the NBA. Can he take a net? So how are you looking at these guys and knowing what their finished product is?
I think
when they've been getting incrementally better, or even some of them taking not even just increments, but small leaps throughout the time that they've been in the league. How can you sit there and say, well, I think they know what their ceiling is going to be when they've been taking some leaps throughout their time here in the league? So I think they're trying to let these guys do a little bit.
The simple answer to that is other teams are doing it. Other teams seem to know what they have in some of these guys, and that's why they're moving them to try to compete. Like the Knicks, people mention the Knicks timeline. Hold on, Sam. People mention the Knicks timeline and what the Knicks timelines are as far as the future and stuff like that. Like the Knicks are closer to contending than a lot of people think. Like just because we have a lot of these young guys, I think the Knicks are close to contending, and that's why we have so much excitement with this team. And if that's the case, if they're going to play the young game and ride it out, why are we not drafting?
Wait.
Like, why are we not drafting?
Are we closer to contention than we think with the guys we have, or after the moves we make?
Because with the core of guys we have with the core of guys that we have right now, as far as the players who are your main pieces, with your Randall and with your Brunson. I'm just looking at those two, right? And you can throw RJ in there if you want. Right, the Knicks are close to contention with that particular group. To me, I've always thought the Knicks are missing one big piece to take them to that next level, right? So yes, I think with those three guys, the Knicks are very close to contention, and maybe you have to swap one out and put a better player in there in one of those guys' place to get there. But all these other guys, like your IQs, and I'm high on IQ and I'm high on Grimes and stuff like that. I don't feel like the Knicks. I feel like the Knicks know where those guys are, and they're not going to be at that certain type of level already. And if they don't, maybe I'm wrong, but other teams that are contending in the NBA move those pieces out the way in order to bring in a bigger fish, and we have the assets to do so. So to me, I'm just very confused about
who moved those pieces.
What the Knicks are doing.
Who moved those pieces? No, I'm just asking who moved those young pieces that they drafted to get a better piece.
Many teams around the NBA do it, Sam. Many of the contending teams.
I mean, who did it? That's what I'm asking.
Every team that's contending right now.
Okay, so tell me who
every team that's contending right now.
Who they traded?
Boston, Milwaukee.
Boston's been trading veterans. They've been holding on to their young core.
What I mean.
Miami.
Honestly, I think the path now
they traded
has been holding on to the young core more than getting rid of the young core.
They still got Tyler Hero. They still got Duncan Robinson, don't they?
They do, but they're talking about moving those guys out the door to get better. So they're actively they know what they have in those players. Even though Tyler Hero. Say again?
Gabe Vincent wasn't a young guy. What young guys did they move recently to get better?
Gabe Vincent wasn't a young guy. He was an undrafted guy going into the program.
What young guy did they move? What young guy did they move to get better? Did they trade to get better?
Gabe Vincent.
And got who?
I don't remember I know Gabe Vincent got traded. They traded Gabe Vincent to get better, and they're actively talking about trading Tyler Hero.
Free agency. Everybody that left in free agency.
But what I'm saying is they're actively, like Miami knows that they got to trade Tyler Hero to get better. So they know, even though Tyler Hero is at a particular level and he was runner-up or he won Sixth Man of the Year, they know they have to move him in order to get better. That's what I'm saying. Like
I mean, but they're not just moving him for anybody, and they haven't moved.
Yeah, and I'm not, Sam. I'm not asking the Knicks to move young pieces for anybody. That's not what I'm saying at all. I didn't say that.
He's still on the team. They haven't moved him.
But they're shopping him. They're actively moving him because they know they have to get better. Is what I'm saying.
I'm saying they put him in conversations for certain people, and I'm sure the Knicks would do so as well, which they have. Right? They had RJ in the conversation for Donovan Mitchell. They had Emmanuel Quickly in the conversation for Donovan Mitchell. They had those guys in those conversations.
That's my point. So they're okay. So if they're willing to move those pieces, let's go ahead and do it. What are we waiting on?
Also,
it takes two
for right now.
Say again.
So who are you going ahead and doing that for right now?
I would have did the Drew Holiday trade. I would have did that trade. I would have did the Donovan Mitchell trade.
You would have moved RJ in that trade for me?
Yes, 100%.
I would not
100%.
move RJ for Drew Holiday. To me, I don't think that takes you anywhere.
So
And Drew Holiday is
no,
30.
for Donovan Mitchell, I would have moved RJ. For
No,
Drew
no, I'm
Holiday,
talking about Holiday.
yeah, for Holiday, I would have moved Evan Fournier because I don't think Portland has a need for RJ because they're already solidified at that position. I would have moved Evan Fournier and either Grimes or IQ in that trade. Most likely, I would personally want to move Grimes, right? Because Drew Holiday fits a specific need. You can put him in that
Yeah,
starting lineup.
we all agree there.
Okay, so there you go. That's my example with that. It just seems to me like the Knicks have all these assets. What good are the assets if you're not going to use them, right? And to me, it seems more than a coincidence that we've been rumored in all these trades and we haven't been able to get anything done, and that's the frustrating part to me.
Let me transition real quick to the last question because it was supposed to be a short one. What questions do you anticipate maybe being answered tomorrow, and then maybe you don't anticipate anything being answered. But what questions would you like to be answered tomorrow? And yeah, you guys.
I think a big question is going to be what we were just talking about. Where does Tom Thibodeau see Dante DiVincenzo and how he's going to use Dante DiVincenzo? I think that's going to be one of the bigger questions, right? Does he see him, as a guy that can handle the basketball, playing up? However, I think that's going to be a big question.
Do you think that gets answered? I know you laugh. You said none of them because I think that's something that will be addressed.
Thibodeau's going to give an answer, but I don't think it can. Obviously, it can't get fully answered until they play. But I think Tom Thibodeau will give an answer where he envisions them.
Yeah. And I think it'd be a good question because again, Dante DiVincenzo to me is a redundant piece based on what the Knicks already have, in my opinion. He's just redundant. So I think that'd be a great question. How it gets answered, we don't know. I would like to, and it probably won't happen to hear Leon Rose or someone from the front office address what their goals are, but obviously that's not going to happen either. So,
I think I know the answer to that already. I could tell you the answer to that right now.
Give him the answer.
They're going to ask you what the goals are, and he's going to say, "Every year is a new year, and we got to start from the ground up, right? And we got to start building our habits starting tomorrow." I can tell you that right now. That's exactly what he's going to say.
That sounds about spot on.
We start building our habits from the ground up. That's where we're going.
One of the things I'm looking for, at least some type of small answer to, whether it's that the backup power forward spot, you know what I mean? And what are they looking at for here? Are they looking at the Nathan Knights? You know what I mean? Are they looking at Josh Hart playing up, if you will? You know what I mean? I'm pretty sure that's going to be asked in some capacity, whether it's how do you replace Obi production or whatever way they phrase it or word it. I'm sure it's gonna come out. So that's one of the things I think is a possibility we'll get some type of answer for. Whether it's open race, fight for the spot, or what I mean. I envision Hart and RJ could fill in those roles, but I think we'll get some answers in that front.
I think the Knicks go small ball. I think that's been kind of a around the league. It's been kind of a thing. Like ever since Miami and LeBron went to Miami, he played the small ball forward. That's kind of been what's going on. JJ Redick mentioned on his podcast, a few days ago. That's just what the NBA is kind of going to. I get it. The lack of size really just kind of makes us feel kind of what are the Knicks going to do? But I think there is a way for the Knicks to be able to have that position filled with the current roster that they have right now. And again, we like size, but I just think the Knicks are going in a different direction based on the roster that I see right now. Or else it would have been addressed, in my opinion, based on the roster.
I mean,
small guards, it seems like.
I agree with you.
Like those 6'1" to 6'4" guards.
Yeah. 3-guard lineups. How much of that do you think we see? or even a 4 guard lineup. You know what I mean? Like we may see a 4 guard lineup at times. I don't know.
I mean, I personally, I have no problem with it. I have no problem. I didn't have a problem with the 3 guard lineup the Knicks put on the floor last season when you had Grimes, Quickly, and Jalen Brunson out there. I think that was one of our best defensive lineups. Actually, I think Steph used to talk about it all the time. Yeah, I had no problem with that at all, and I think the Knicks are going to continue to do the same thing. And whoever plays the 4th spot, maybe Hart or whatever, I think the Knicks go with that, right? Or increase minutes for Julius Randle.
Yeah, I think they're gonna go with Hart at that 4th spot.
Yeah, I don't think we need increased minutes for Randle.
I think we might get a few looks of Hartenstein and Sims, but I think he's gonna settle in on just playing Hart there and then putting RJ in that second unit too. So you got Quickly, Dante DiVincenzo, Josh Hart, RJ Barrett, Isaiah Hartenstein.
So nine-man rotation then.
Yeah, I think that's what he's going to settle in. I think he might give it a look though, Hartenstein and Sims, but when it's all said and done, I think he's going to settle in on RJ Barrett playing in that spot.
I mean, if Mitchell Robinson is able to increase his minutes, 10 minutes or whatever, 6 minutes a game, stay out of foul trouble, I could see him and Hartenstein playing some minutes together as well. At times in spurts. I mean, you mentioned Sims, but I could see it with Robinson as well, especially if it's working out with with him passing the ball, maybe throwing some lobs. If he could solidify that jump shot, that opens things up as well.
I think RJ in that second unit gives him a chance to be a little bit more of a leader point of the offense. Without being out there with Brunson and Randle, so it gives him a little bit more, a chance to be a little bit more of a focal point. The minutes that he does play with the second unit, so I think that might factor in too.
I'm hopeful, Sam. I'm hopeful, but so far I haven't seen it as much as I would like. I bet if RJ Barrett turns into that type of player where he can be the focal point, I think everything changes for this Knicks team. Everything I'm saying about ball handling and all that stuff, for what this team doesn't have right now, that'll be completely changed because RJ would already be doing that. But so far, he just hasn't been that guy to a level where I think he needs to for this particular team. And the type of offense that the Knicks run, they run half-court isolation basketball. Like their offense is predicated on the guy breaking their man down, kicking the ball out.
Well, to me,
so far we only got Brunson and IQ that can do that.
To me, it's an advantage if RJ could take that roll up in the second unit. You know what I mean? I think playing alongside a Brunson and Randle, not saying bench him or I'm not having that conversation again. But when he gets those minutes with the second unit, I think those are the times where he needs to really look to pick up the aggression, take up more of a lead role. You know what I mean? I don't know if it's to his advantage trying to do that with Brunson and Randle on the floor.
Right. And so when I say focal point, it doesn't necessarily mean that he's like scoring these points at that points. What I'm saying is, he's a bigger part of the offense. He's just
play through him.
Just not shooting from the corner or catching the handoff from Randle and dribbling down the left side of the lane. He has a little bit bigger role.
Exactly. The role changes when you're in that second unit. You got more responsibility now. You know what I mean?
So Tony, I think for this particular team, I think you're correct, right? But here's why I would say I think, and I keep going back to the starting unit and why I think if RJ doesn't do it, we need to get somebody in here who can. Because I think for the Knicks, if they can find a way at times during games to turn Julius Randle and Jalen Brunson into finishers, that changes everything for this particular team right now. And right now in the starting lineup, we just don't have that. Quentin Grimes, off the ball player. RJ Barrett, shoots from the corner, knocks down some threes. but there needs to be someone to take the pressure off. And that's why when the Knicks bought IQ in that starting lineup and they put RJ on the bench down the stretch of games, we were most successful because you had another guy. Even though the ball wasn't in IQ's hands specifically, defenses had to prepare a different way. In that Cleveland series, remember when they put who's the defender that they got? The kid, Okoro. They put Okoro on Jalen Brunson to try to stop him, right? And it was working for a little bit. I think in that game 2 it was working for a little bit. What the Knicks do, they put IQ in the game. And Cleveland had to change up their entire defense. They went from Okoro, Karis LeVert, guarding Jalen Brunson. So to me, I just think in that starting lineup, it changes everything. And so far, and I'm hopeful, I'm praying. People think I hate RJ. I'm praying that RJ turns into that player. But so far, he hasn't. Based on what I've seen, he has not turned into that player. I'm not saying take over for Jalen Brunson and for Randall majority of the game, but I just think it's important for them to get that other ball handler in that starting line.
I mean, I get it. I don't think it was like that for every team. I mean, with Cleveland, you know, you had 2 small guards in that lineup where I think RJ, you know, struggled defending a little bit. You know, and the matchup was better with IQ out there because he could defend those 2 smaller guards better. You know what I mean? So I think that was one of the reasons why it worked so well with IQ out there with Jalen Brunson versus Cleveland because, you know, you had Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland. So you had to match up with those 2 guys, and IQ matched up better than RJ.
What about Miami, Sam? What about the Miami series? Because we spoke about this before. Like the Knicks were missing IQ in that series for the same reason.
They were. Yeah. Right. They were definitely missing IQ because, you know, Jalen Brunson had to handle so much of, you know, so much of the ball handling duties, and then, you know, if they was just pressuring him all the way up the court, it basically took him, you know, okay, I'm boom, 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 boom. I mean, he still had his 40 points or whatever, but it was pressure on just one person. You know what I'm saying? So missing IQ was tremendous.
And it made the offense more stagnant. And to me, our offense is the biggest thing. I know we talk about defense all the time, but offensively, we just look so stagnant because we depend on 3-point shooting or 3-point shooting to seem to bail us out at the end of the shot clock. Our offense just looks so lethargic at times. And I think that's the biggest reason. We need another ball handler out there. We can't just depend on, and Jalen Brunson's been great, but oftentimes we depend on Jalen Brunson to seem to bail us out of offensive possessions at times. Because when Randall's it's not on his game, we have nobody else to really, you know, carry some of that load in the starting lineup. So,
all right, very last thing before we get out of here. One prediction for the season, not like a record. I'll start one. I'm not laying my hat on it, but just I'm gonna say DiVincenzo beats out Grimes in the starting unit. So like that's my my wild prediction. Everybody pick, you know, find a wild prediction that you want to just throw out there.
Go ahead, Sam. You got it.
I don't know. I'm thinking. I need a second to think. A wild prediction.
Actually, I'm not even going to use that, but that was an example. So if you want to use it, that's fine.
No, I mean, you know, I'm not going to use it, but I do think there's a chance that Dante DiVincenzo gets that starting spot. I don't know that the Knicks make a big trade deadline splash move.
I was gonna say the same thing. Me and Sim thinking the same way.
Trade deadline. Okay.
Yeah. I think there could be one somewhere. A big move at the deadline.
All right,
I think so as well.
This might contradict you guys' prediction, but I'm gonna go on and say I've been saying it. The Knicks reach an extension with quickly before the season starts. Day before the season starts, quickly gets his extension. That's my wild prediction. Man, I'm glad. I'm so happy the season's upon us. I appreciate you guys jumping in.
Season is here. First argument of the season. Season. That's how you kick it off. This is how you kick it off.
Yeah, it wouldn't be right if it wasn't Josh. You know what I mean?
Always.
It wouldn't be right.
Gotta hold MBK accountable, right? That's what they say.
I think how you kick it off, man.
I think the only guy who could have topped off an argument right now would have been who's Mark. You know what I mean? That's the only guy that could have came in here and just set it on
Yeah.
fire. But
What time does media day start tomorrow? I haven't really seen much about it.
I have no idea.
I don't know. I mean, I was surprised. I was seeing other teams media days all weekend. So um, and the Knicks are typically late. Like we gonna be. I feel like we're gonna be waiting for it. I feel like they know. There's a whole content creation work content creator world, you know what I mean, waiting for this moment. I feel like it's gonna end up dropping late unless we're watching it like on MSG or something.
It happened that way last year.
Yeah,
That's exactly what happened last year, and we, we're like,
Last
oh, the
year,
Knicks.
last year, what they did is they didn't even. They had the media people release. They released clips, and then later on in the day, the whole thing would come out.
mm. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it's similar. Like, I don't think we're gonna get the Knicks stuff the way everybody else has been dropping all weekend. You know what I mean? An hour interview with the whole coach or the coaching staff or the front. You know what I mean? Like, now we're gonna get increments. I feel like that's how it's gonna be. You know, they're gonna feed us slow. But I mean, I'm excited. Shout out to the chat, man. What 2 o'clock in the morning? Y'all rocking with me. I appreciate that for sure. See
Yeah,
Ashley, INC1, Julian been here the whole time. Mega Sherman was in the building. Man, we back, man. MBK, we
Heck,
back.
I'm about to go eat my chicken over rice. Go heat it up. 2 o'clock in the morning, but I'm about to kill it because I'm hungry.
And we got we got a whole day for y'all tomorrow, right? Just some you jumping on.
Yeah.
Queen is back on MBK. I'll be back. So yeah, man, it's gonna be a nice full day of content
Yeah,
tomorrow.
man. It's gonna be a whole content day. No basketball practice tomorrow night for me. So, you know, I'm ready. I can be on all day.
And hopefully they, you know what I mean, they give us something spicy. You know what I mean? Hopefully we get a full interview and you know some questions and
And
answers.
I
I
would-
don't I
yeah,
don't expect a lot of answers.
I
I,
don't think
I
we're gonna get that full interview to the end, like you said, to the end of the day. After all the media has put out their stuff. Nick,
They like, yeah, you want to judge, yeah, you want to judge us in the paper. You gonna get that late, you know what I mean?
I feel like part of that is because the major media outlets, said something to the Knicks, like, you know, with you doing media day, like on Facebook or whatever it is, uh, the content creators get the information at the same time that we get it. So I think they went to that. I think they went to that format last year so that the media outlets, the major media outlets, could get it, put it out, and then the content creators can
Mm.
feed off of that. Yeah, because there was just some rumblings from like some of the major media outlets about just some things, like, oh,
Not gonna give my opinion on the whole
They
media
threw him a
thing. I know how
bone.
I feel about that already.
huh?
They threw him a bone.
Yeah, because there was just some rumblings. There was just some rumblings about some of the major media outlets being a little bit like, with certain things that was coming out about content creators getting the information at the same time.
Same
Kind of
time.
neutralizes, the information that they get. Kind of neutralizes it. So,
And
gotta do something first.
I mean, they gotta adapt and adjust in real time. You know what I mean? Like you see a lot of the reporters, everybody they getting into the whole private content creation world anyway. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
They understand what it is and now they can kind of be in both worlds. So I mean, shout out to us, man. And when I say us, I mean all of us. You know what I mean? Like they seen the wave. You know what I mean? They seen the support. You know what I mean? And I don't want to say they felt threatened, but I get it. You know what I mean? Like you could disagree, man, but I think the writing was in the wall. I mean, on the wall. That
The
and
writing
that's
was on
why
the wall because the Knicks knew that they didn't break any NBA bylaws, so that's the reason why they're doing what they're doing. James Dolan's not a big media guy, neither is Leon Rose, so I understand from that perspective why the Knicks are doing what they're doing. But for me, I just personally would never agree with it.
no, I'm speaking
I,
beyond the Knicks though. I mean, like even like where you talk about Shannon Sharp, Stephen A, like Skip Bayless, they're all going into the private sector as well as the corporate sector.
so
And
the
it's
thing is,
because they see what's going on in the
so
world.
again, Tony, not all media is built the same. Stephen A. Smith was a columnist. Skip Bayless was a columnist, which means they give their opinion on stuff. I'm talking about the beat writers, the Ian Begleys of the world, and those guys because they follow the team and they get information that the fans the fans can't ask those questions. Fan created podcasts cannot ask those questions. So I think it's unfair to compare a Skip Bayless and a Stephen A. Smith and all these columnists who give their opinion on stuff to beat writers. It's different forms of media. Right. So, I mean, the Knicks can do whatever they want to do. You know, they're not breaking any NBA laws. The fans can agree with it. But for me, I just don't agree with that because those beat writers ask the questions that we simply want to know.
You mean for media day?
For media, for any time, for media day or, when that, in those press conferences, those beat writers ask those questions.
No, because for media day, the beat writers are the one that's there. And the content creators don't get anything until the beat writers get their stuff.
Right.
And then the beat writers, put out whatever, put out what it is.
Yeah. And I just wasn't being specific to the Knicks because I wish the Knicks were a little bit more open. I like for instance, I'm on YouTube, watching random teams interviews or whatever. There's Kyrie Irving sitting down with Locked On Mavs. You know what I mean? They got so stuff like that. I'm like, oh, that's dope. Like, you know what I mean? They let Locked On Mavs in the building, you know what I mean? And they got a Kyrie interview. Like that's gotta be huge for, you know what I mean, their platform and the whole like network or whatever. So like do I wish the Knicks were a little bit more transparent and open and public, but I also get why they do what they do. Try and protect their narrative. You know what I mean? It is what it is. We'll get some information tomorrow though. But yeah, thank you guys for rocking out with us. And we'll be back in a couple hours, really. You know what I mean? Sometime tomorrow, breaking this stuff down. Any last words, Tim?
I think I'm good, man. I'm about to go eat this food. I'm starving.
Yeah, no, my man, I'm holding you up. Josh, when we get in a controversy? Probably right after media day, right?
Still working on it. I'm in the process of moving, right? Because I'm about to rent this side out, so I'm about to get rid of this whole studio thing, like behind me, like all my setup and everything like that. So I'm still working on it, but it's coming soon. What I will say to a lot of Knicks fans out there, not every move we don't necessarily have to make, right? But there's a difference between, the Knicks going all in, right, and the Knicks making moves to incrementally get better. To me, I felt like Drew Holiday could have made us get better incrementally. He would have filled the need on this team that this team actually needed and could have used, not just for the regular season, but for the playoffs. And ultimately, the Knicks are going to have to cash their chips in. Ultimately, they're going to have to do so. Yeah, that's it.
I agree. Sim, say you agree so we could leave on an agreed note.
I agree.
No doubt. I just don't want to go out and get anybody. Like, I think there's a method to my madness. I didn't want to go get Paul George. I thought Zach LaVine would have been a better fit, whatever it is. But, Knicks fans got to stop with this scared money, don't make no money type nonsense, right? We have assets. We have a ton that we can be able to move. I forget what the number is of first-round picks that we have in the next whatever amount of years. But we got that. And we got a ton of young players, and we got tradable contracts. So in order for us to get into that next level, we got to start making moves because guess what? That superstar player, I don't believe is on this team right now. None of the young guys, not RJ, not Quickly, not none of those guys. And I think the Knicks know that too. And that's
not Brunson, not Randall.
I'm talking about out of the young guys that we drafted.
Okay. All right.
IQ
We out of
is-
here. We out of here. Sim hungry, man. It's 2:00 in the
Right.
morning. Let's get out of here. Peace. Shout out to the chat. Your Black is time. Appreciate y'all. We out.